With the second pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Aidan Hutchinson, defensive end, Michigan. With the 31st pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals select Dax Hill, defensive back, Michigan.
All right, welcome in. Good Friday. Dennis Fithian here on the Maize and Blue Review. We're here every weekday at 1 o'clock. We're a part of Rivals.com, talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And last night you had two Wolverines going to the first round of the draft. We'll get to that, plus the prospects of some other Wolverines that maybe selected in rounds 2 and 3, and then the rest of the draft over the weekend. If you are out there and you want to get in, you can use the feedback and put a message up. Tell me how you thought this team did, that team. I'll go over any of the teams that are out there. But, the Lions have a thought or two on what the Lions did, and maybe some other teams that jumped out and what to expect coming up tonight and the weekend. That's it with the NFL draft. And I have to go, and the first thing that I would look at with the draft is just how time will tell. If I'm going to say, hey, this is the most entertaining draft that I've ever watched. Well, it was. And sometimes you hear like, it's the greatest draft ever. From an entertainment standpoint, because of the trades that happen in the draft, because of the uncertainty, even at the top of the draft. I know Trayvon Walker in the last couple of days for sure, in the last week or two, looked like he was going to take over Aidan Hutchinson to be that number 1 pick, but you weren't 100% sure. So there still was some intrigue there. There was some intrigue. I thought that the Lions should have, that were going to, and then ultimately they did take Aidan Hutchinson, but it wouldn't have been, fall out of your seat shocker if they would have gone with Thibodeau. I mean, that could have happened easily. And then to see Detroit fire back up to number 12, where, they ended up taking Jameson Williams. They could have gone with Kyle Hamilton, who the Ravens took 2 picks later. Heck, you want to make a case for Jordan Davis? Maybe. I wouldn't have done that, but I don't remember which I was flipping back and forth between the two broadcasts, but they were like, you don't move up unless you're taking a quarterback here. And so, Malik Willis, I didn't think that the Lions should move up to take Malik Willis, but that certainly wasn't out of the question that they would have been doing that. You may have thought that they were going that route. And so they get involved. And then the wide receivers, then so you had all these trades that I talked about around. You get maneuvering in the draft, but then you have big time names like A.J. Brown going to Tennessee to Philly, and then, Lamar Jackson there and enjoying the Kyle Hamilton pick. And then the next thing you know, his buddy Hollywood Brown is packing his bags to go to Arizona to play with Kyler Murray and the Cards. And you got Lamar taking to Twitter and not liking it. So it was crazy. And to see all the wide receivers then flying off the board, and it started at 8, but then, it continued with the Ohio State back-to-back picks. And then the Lions, when their name came up there, you do this. If you're like me, maybe you do this. It happens at times in sports. It's really cool when it happens during a game. Like I remember when Odell Beckham Jr. was either Sunday or Monday night, he made the one-handed catch for the Giants against the Cowboys. And those are pretty, I don't know about routine, but it's not a something that you set everything down and call off your friends and everything else. But it was a showstopper, and I kind of had to it took like 2 or 3 seconds that it happened in slow motion, and I'm like, what? Woodson, when he was at Michigan, and in '97 up at East Lansing, made the one-handed interception. I was down in the opposite end zone, pretty much right down the sideline. And it was kind of the same kind of thing. It was like, whoa, it just stops with like 2 seconds to go. And last night, and so this will happen in the draft, like you're know that the Lions have picked 32, but yeah, teams do make trades. But I had to do the double take. I'm like, wait a second, the Lions have moved up. What's going on here? And I was left for about a minute or two, wondering what was going to happen. I like to take it all in live through the TV. I know some people like to go online, like Twitter. You have people busting out the picks and the trades beforehand. Maybe you look smarter, and you can go and tell your friends this is happening. That's happening. I get it. At times I've done that, and definitely with the NBA, I've gone that route before. But I was just letting it play out, and then there it was, Jameson Williams getting selected. So the feedback starts with Jason, who gets involved, and let's read Jason's feedback here. He loves Brad Holmes. That's the first part of this. I love that Holmes moved up to get a quality wide receiver. Unpredictably is just what we needed, and 2 first-round picks next year. I'm loving the future draft capital and look forward to the next 2 days. Yeah, I'm with you. And there's a couple things about moving up to 12. Like I said, there was a couple possibilities there. And going with Jameson Williams, the NFL, this seems like every day or every week, there's some kind of, major topic to discuss about the league. But it's been for a couple weeks with, look at Devontae traded from Devontae Adams traded, from the Packers to the Raiders, Tyreek Hill. I mean, these are 2 of the best, if not the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL. So you see the movement of wide receiver ones, like all pro wide receivers being moved. And then during the draft, I mean, AJ Brown is a great wide receiver. If you don't want to call him great, he could be great. He's put together some fantastic seasons. And then you see Hollywood Brown, who hasn't been great. At times he's shown flashes of that. He was great in college. Maybe all of them were, but for that to happen, and then for teams to say, look, in the one part, Daniel Jeremiah, I was watching on the NFL Network, he's taken out when he went to Olave, and he said, look, $3 million, the spot. That was what the 10 spot or 11 spot was paid last year. And you look at, the salaries, $25 million that are being commanded now by, the top tier wide receivers, and that's what they're looking for. So if you can get the guy that's polished and ready to go, and you can put him right down the field, that's always the danger. Like AJ Brown, known commodity, what you've seen him do. Can you just go and what did the Texans pick Treylon Burks out of Arkansas? Maybe they are 2 comparable players. Maybe he'll hit the ground running, and maybe they'll save that much money, and that'll be great for them. But to see the Lions then get in there, and here's the beauty, Jason, I think about the Lions, and I'll get to the other point on the feedback here. The thing about the Lions is that they came in and, brutal franchise, all of that, but it was going to be different this time around with this coach and this general manager, is they weren't playing we're going to get to the playoffs and anything can happen. And hey, for the first time in 25 years, the first time in, close to 60, all of those things that about with the Lions, they talked about the long view, and that played out last year. I mean, they weren't a very good team. And when you take a guy that's likely, and we'll get to Jameson Williams and his timetable and everything to return, but when you jump up and take a guy like that, and that's not going to be available in training camp, it's not going to be available in the first couple games, and he might be put on the PUP, the physically unable to perform list to start the season, and that is to be expected. And you're saying, wow, the guy's going to miss the first 6 games of the year, and you're moving up to take him at 12. Well, that's the Lions here. If they can get to next year, and this is the part that I don't like, and I know Lion fans, they want to have something to cling on to in the offseason, and think about next year and the possibility of winning the North, all those things that always come into it. Why not us? That stuff. But it's likely that the Lions will be, one of the the bottom 5 teams in the NFL. And I'm going to say it's okay. One more year, it's okay that the Lions will be bottom 5. And Jason just mentioned the draft capital that they'll have next year. And so you don't have to root. I don't care if you root. Like, I'm not going to sit here every day and root for tank. And that becomes obnoxious. And you can make a case that, you can get a player anywhere. And when you have multiple draft picks, you have that firepower. Let's say the Lions won 8 games. I don't think that's going to happen. Or 9 games. I'm not going to go. Let's just say 8 games. And so whatever that puts them at, 13 or 14 in the draft, they could package wherever that Rams selection is. Let's say 25 and 13, and maybe move up into the top 5 and get one of the 2, Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. There'll be another QB or 2 that will have a great year and will maybe even move in front of those 2 guys. It looks like a nice quarterback draft setting up, at least as we, sit here and talk about the day after the first round of the 22 draft. We spin it ahead, start looking towards the 23 draft. But for the Lions, it's important. And for a fan, you don't have to entertain any of my thoughts. You can think that, hey, you go out and have a great draft tonight and tomorrow, and the Lions could be in the mix, and hey, fair enough. Whatever makes you feel good, and you go from there. But Jason had another point to make, and he said Malik Willis didn't even go in the first round. I guess he wasn't wanted as much as projected by every team. Steelers didn't care about Kenny Pickett's hand size. Congratulations to Steeler Nation. Maybe. Yeah, I like when a kid, a prospect, ends up going to the hometown team. Pickett playing his ball at Pittsburgh, and then the Steelers selecting him. That was pretty cool at 20. As far as Malik Willis, taking him at 2 was always ridiculous talk. But you always have to consider the source. Some people are, made for hot takes, and if you're a fan that just wants a quarterback, and you saw whatever, you could say it. That I didn't hear many people, saying that the Lions were going to take or even think about entertaining, taking Malik Willis at 2. I did, hear because they need a quarterback potentially. The Panthers, they've got Sam Darnold there. Certainly, whatever the Falcons are rolling out. What are the Falcons rolling out next year? Marcus Mariota. I mean, right now that's what it's. So I thought that starting with the Panthers, definitely, and then Willis is from Atlanta, right? So I was keeping my eyes on number 8. Who's the QB in Seattle right now? Like, is that going to be Baker Mayfield that's going to go out there? Whatever they're going to do. And, I know Jameson Winston, is the QB for New Orleans, but, they'll be looking for a QB. Obviously, Pittsburgh they picked one. And you just go down the list there. So, quarterbacks always get overdrafted. And, there was a chance that, he was going to get selected. The funny thing, and I like the selection for the Lions. I like the aggressiveness. I like the overall compensation that they had to give up to move to number 12. They didn't have to give up a first-round pick. They were able to get to 12. And they did it with a division rival. I mean, all of those things right there. I don't know if it's magic by Brad Holmes. It was a nice move to get up there and then to get Williams. Am I worried about Williams and his knee? Well, we've seen enough players now go through ACLs and come back 100%. It's like Tommy John, baseball players. I agree with that. It is something. You get a second one, next thing you know, you are in trouble. So knowing you go in there, it's a gamble. But it's also very, I don't know if it's high risk, but it's is it low risk? Between low risk and medium risk and then super high reward, I like the move. With where the NFL is going, with what the Lions need, with how the draft was going, I thought it was a good move for them to get up there and get Jameson Williams. So, yeah, those wide receivers were flying off the board. Georgia, to get all those players selected in the first round, and then not have Nakobe Dean, who, if you're a Michigan fan, you think about the Orange Bowl, he stood out, maybe more than, Davis. That's how impressive Nakobe Dean was. And definitely, if somehow he would fall, and we've seen guys fall. I mean, I can't believe that Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State, man, that guy's he was at Georgia at one point. I can't believe he fell, but he did. So it happens. And even though Malik Willis wasn't selected in the first round, if somehow he would fall to the Lions in the second round, or if Nakobe Dean fell somehow to the Lions in the second round, I think those would be fantastic selections. Great value, very good value for Detroit. So to get back just for 1 second on the draft overall, time will tell. Like, you go through, I don't know why you have to say that, but the Jets, a notoriously, terrible franchise. They get 3 first rounders. Johnson, who I already mentioned, Sauce Gardner and Jordan Davis. I'm sorry, Sauce Gardner and who else did the Jets take? Oh, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, and then Jermaine Johnson. 3 picks. Those guys, I'm sure in New York, they're saying we might have got the best defensive end, might have got the best wide receiver, I might have got the best corner. Now, Sauce wasn't the first corner taken. Stingley was. Garrett Wilson wasn't the first wide receiver taken. Drake London was. And certainly Jermaine Johnson wasn't the first edge. Walker and Hutchinson were the first 2 off the board, and Johnson didn't go to 26. But a Jets fan is sitting around saying we may have gotten the best in all 3 of those positions. They're saying the same thing across town in New York if you're a Giants fan. I don't have really a New York accent. We may have got the best in Thibodeau, number 1. We're picking 5. We might get the best offensive lineman in Evan Neal. He'll slide right over there and right tackle. A lot of teams feeling really good about their drafts, and it was just that kind of night. I would say with the exception of 2 really good franchises, 2 that I don't really care for, one for sure, and that's the Packers, who got Devontae Adams got out of town, and instead of packaging their picks and moving up and getting one of the wide receivers, they thought maybe that one of these guys were going to fall to them. They went defense, Georgia Bulldog. And in Green Bay, they're sitting around saying, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is great, but who's he going to throw the ball to? And then Packer fans will say, hey, we're a great organization. We got Devontae Adams in the second round. There's still Deebo Samuel is out there. He wants to get traded. He would look good in whatever colors those, puke green and yellow that the Packers wear. It was Kelly green. I don't even know what Kelly green and yellow. Deebo Samuel would look good in the green and yellow, and so would a DK Metcalf. And clearly the Seahawks are rebuilding, so maybe they'll go that route, and something to keep an eye on tonight, or maybe they'll strike gold like they did in the past. But I would have loved to have had a camera on Aaron Rodgers during the draft last night. That would have been cool. But so that was it. I think that last night was the most entertaining draft of all time. Now, the Lions were up top. The Lions were one of the headliners of the draft because they, moved up so far. They already had, the 32nd pick, but they packaged their first and the second, and then moved up, to get Williams. So there was that, and there was the Michigan player in Hutchinson at 2, and then Dax Hill ended up going later, and then otherwise. So it had all of this going on. It was, I thought it was fabulous theater. I enjoyed all of it. And, there are times, flipping back and forth from the NFL Network to ESPN when I don't really care for Booger McFarland as an analyst. He's better than he was as color analyst, but he doesn't really give it. So then I'll flip over to the NFL Network, and there's got to be somebody that I pretty much like all of what they're doing. And Rich Eisen running the NFL Network, but I do flip back and forth. So I like to hear Kuiper, and I like Louis Riddick. I just don't like Booger, so I'll flip Booger off, and I'll go to the NFL Network. All right, Jason, with a couple more points here before we move to the next screen, and we'll stay on the draft. Jason saying to risk it all, to be honest, he loves the Hutchinson pick, yet we'll see how he does in the NFL. He was manhandled in the Georgia game against bigger competition. Very happy for him and his family. Go Lions. Yeah, I don't know. Manhandled. There were a couple plays where you look that I know where that's coming from, where you say manhandled. And I get what you're saying. You look to some of the defensive ends just recently that were taken and how they performed in college, and guys, defensive end from Ohio State, the Washington football team took the Commanders. He disappeared against, or was manhandled against Michigan, and then disappeared in the college football playoff. And talk about Chase Young. He's one of the best defensive ends in the game. So it happens, but really all of the different moves that he has and the way that he plays, it was an excellent pick here. And I'm not limiting, like the other people say, well, there's other guys just got these great ceilings over Hutchinson. We'll see about that. I think he's got as good of a chance as any of those defensive ends that were taken, the one in front, the couple in back, any of the other ones in the first round. I think he can be the best one out of all of them. You know, he's I'm not selling him short on anything. He's a fantastic prospect. And, the part, like I said, about Kenny Pickett going from Pitt to Pittsburgh, going from Divine Child, going from Dearborn to Ann Arbor to Detroit. I mean, it's a fabulous story. You don't get many of the guys that, high school, college, and then pro. And how many? I don't even know who comes to mind when you think about that. Charlie Gehringer from the Tigers, who was from Fowlerville, went to Michigan, and then spent his entire career with the Tigers, Hall of Fame career. There might be some more, but there's not many. The point where you go to high school, college, and pro. Right. All right. Some of the pictures from last night. A couple comments here moving forward. Dax Hill does get selected right around where Vegas thought he was going to get picked. They had 28.5, and he ended up going 31. So, pick or two later than he was projected to go. But it's a great landing spot, and you've probably heard this a million times. It's true. Guys that slide later in the draft, you can get with a good situation. I don't know, I'm ready to call the Bengals a great franchise, but they had a great year, and they've got Joe Burrow, and they've got Jamar Chase, who might be better than all these wide receivers. So you start with that. And you want superstars, and if you can pick the position, of course, you'd pick quarterback. They've got that. So the future looks bright in Cincinnati. It's weird to say because it hadn't looked bright in a decade or so. Has it been when Marvin Lewis was there, they would get to the playoffs and lose every year. So maybe inside of 10 years there were some, but it's been around there. You know where I'm at, but it's a good landing spot for Daxton Hill. I got a picture. It was taken off the TV. You can't see the table in front of him. Dax Hill had 32 hats in front of him, so he wasn't exactly sure where he was going to go. But he looks good in that Bengals gear, and he'll not necessarily teaming up with Jordan Kovacs, but the former Michigan captain Jordan Kovacs, who's an assistant linebacker coach, I would imagine that he would go up to Dax Hill, be like, "Go Blue, what's up?" And so great spot there for Dax. And then Aidan, he was the toast of the town. He has been taking advantage, name, image, and likeness. He did a good job last year. And then since the Orange Bowl, everything, he's popping up on Twitter telling you what he likes to eat. He's got this podcast. The picture on the screen up to the left is his playing card. I don't know if it's an NFT situation there, maybe. Here he is talking with the Lions reporter from their website, the young lady who her name escapes me, but she is just recently been hired by the Lions, but she went to Michigan, so you got the Michigan connection there. And for Hutchinson, you you think about it. If you're young, relatively young, and you're a Michigan fan and you don't really like the Lions because of their history, I would think there would be some that would look at him and say, "Hey, you know what? Things are turning around. Look at Brad Holmes. You got, Sheila Hamp, Dan Campbell. You like, except now they got Aidan Hutchinson. Who knows what they're going to do with the quarterback? But they got a lot of draft capital. Good time to jump aboard the ground floor to be a Lions fan because the future looks relatively bright. It's true. You start talking with older people and they'll say, yeah, but I've been in this, I'm not going to get fooled. There's a lot of people that are my age, over 40, over 50, that will not get sucked in until the Lions not make the playoffs, but win a playoff game. Then I think that they'll come aboard. And I completely get that. I remember when the Lions drafted Jeff Backus from Michigan. And I was, went through the Barry years, and then they got bitter. I was bitter during the Barry years with the Lions, and I couldn't give too much of my fandom to them because they would make me so mad. I wouldn't be around right now. That's how upset, I would get. So I watched, and I would watch my friends go, overheat and everything, and I would laugh a little bit and say, you guys, you're putting too much into them. You gotta, dial it down a little bit. And I'm saying all that because I got in. I remember when they had Backus, and then James Hall was an undrafted free agent, and he was playing for the Lions. It's like, hey, the two Michigan guys. I'm upping my fandom a little bit, and then that didn't work out. And then I started working down and worked on the Lions radio as the studio host. I thought, hey, this is a great time. The Lions have been so bad. One of these times it's going to turn around. I'm cranking it up a little bit more. And then I started going down and doing the post game for almost 10 years, down at Ford Field after every game, or out of the restaurant when they were on the road. And again, I was like, let's turn that Lion fandom up a little bit. And I like Stafford, and I like Calvin Johnson. And, it just hasn't happened. So it's all of that, a little bit of a warning for people that are ready to jump on in and become Michigan Lion fans that otherwise wouldn't. But you probably knew all that. He's sitting around telling you who you should be a fan of. Just think about it. Might want to think about it a little bit when it comes down to the Lions. As for tonight, you've got round 2 and 3, and it starts at 7:00. And then the picks. I like round 2 and 3. I love last night. Like I said, I thought it was the most entertaining draft that I've ever watched. I like how tonight goes off because you get less time between the picks, and they're just firing them off left and right. Where David Ajabo ends up, that'll be the intrigue this evening. Can any of the guys that are considered more mid to late round players, can somehow they end up in the, I don't think second, but maybe third round, and it's Chris Hinton, Andrew Sturber, maybe Haskins. I don't know about any of the other ones, but enough where you watch. And then tomorrow, you just see where guys are going, moving around, and where they land, their spots, and all of that. I'll be in. I'll be commenting via the Maize and Blue Review Wolverine Den posting board all weekend long. Starting tonight at 7:00, I'll be in there making comments about the draft and what's going on and what's going to happen and all of that. The only other thing that I wanted to say is about the Lions and Jameson Williams is I took a look at the wide receiver from Alabama, super speedster. You watch the film, you just see the outright speed, and you just see the acceleration. Catches the ball, and then he can just fly. And he looks like a pretty good route runner as well. He's not just this track speed guy, straight line. He's got the great speed. He's got the explosiveness. And then he looks like a good route runner. All of those things put together is why that even with an ACL tear, he was taken in the top 12 of this draft. When will he be ready to contribute? That's on everybody's mind. And what he's saying, that he wants to be ready for training camp. And, 6 months, it can happen. We've seen Adrian Peterson seem like he'd tear a knee every other month, and he's back in 3 months. But 6 months, that's very soon. But you can look it up online. Normal, I say normal for football players, ACL recovery, they look at 8 to 9 months. So if you go back, it happened in the national championship game, Williams, where he hurt his knee. That was on January the 10th. The surgery, I wasn't able to say exactly. Maybe they didn't say. There was the story from the Sporting News said that they thought it had a surgery around the 19th. So from 6 months from the national championship game would be July. And then if you go to 8, you go to September, mid to late December, you get to October. That would be 9 months on the safe side of that. So October 19th, which is week 7. And it just so happens that the physically unable to perform list, if you get placed on that PUP, it's before the season, you're out for 6 weeks and they can use that roster spot. That's going to be the thing to keep an eye on when it comes down to Jameson Williams. Will they put him on the PUP? You can put a guy on the PUP and then you can pull him off the PUP and then you get into the season, but he is a candidate. And yeah, do I like seeing PUP? I do. But that will be the thing to me to take a look at when he projects to, if he does, go on the PUP and when he would come off. But to get back to it from a Lions standpoint, next year, and I know I've thought about this both with the Red Wings and the Pistons, that, okay, they're done. Like last year, I thought, they're done tanking. This is it. Now they're ready to compete. And I thought the same thing with the Red Wings. Like, forget it. Now they're competing for the playoffs. And, neither team competed for the playoffs. Red Wings got off to a good start. Pistons didn't. But I don't think that the Lions next year are competing for the North. I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs. I'm ready to, guarantee that none of that's going to happen. But so one more year. But if you know that going in, and football's the hard part to say it, is I think when in basketball and in hockey, people just tune out. And then they're like, well, I'll just find something else to do. And then they're like, yeah, I want to tank. Hopefully we're the worst team in the league. And then they come back at the end of the year like, hey, what happened? With football, it doesn't work like that because there's so much passion and you like the games anyways, that thinking about losing or being one of the bottom teams, you have to really buckle in for that. And it's hard to take. And half of the fun for sports fans is the off season and the anticipation of, hey, next year, why not us? And for Lion fans, you've been doing it, so we don't know what a winter's like, so we've been rinse and repeat, Groundhog Day, season's over. Hey, what about the draft? Next year, everything's great. I've approached it a little bit different. I've noticed some people have as well. This will be the real test here, second year with a new regime, but I think that's, if you're taking the long view, you don't have to. Things like, let's be prudent. Let's be patient. Those aren't great selling points. Tank. This is a very good selling point to most people, but next year at this time, be sitting here talking about the Lions. Hey, they got their trigger man. They got their quarterback. Now what? We'll see what happens. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll talk with you on Monday. Anything that happens this weekend, we'll keep an eye on that transfer portal, basketball and football, and we'll look at what happens in the NFL draft, and then we'll come back and talk about it all on Monday. Subscribe and rate our podcast. You do that, you get